Hello and welcome to the Under Center podcast. My name is Rian Rock Malloy, and for the first time ever, I have been handed the keys to the race car offense that is the Under Center podcast. And today I have been joined by Alex Sims and Al McGrath. Gentlemen, how are you?
Fantastic.
Doing good.
Yeah, two guys who are 1-0 to start the season. Not something I can say, but how does it feel, guys? How does it feel?
Feels
Yeah,
good
pretty
to
good.
be part of a successful franchise. Feels good. I'd say though, Alex feels a little better this week. The 49ers pretty well took apart the Jets yesterday. I think even though we got the win, the Seahawks looked a bit spotty on offense.
Yeah. Always tough week one. You just got to get that win though. That's all that really matters.
Yeah.
A lot of weird stuff can happen I'm sure we'll get into, but just happy to have that 1-0.
Absolutely, and we probably will get into both of those games later on in the show. But look, it's just good to have football back. As a guy who has been supporting a franchise that's gone 0-1 the last, I think, 5 seasons in a row, it's still good to have football back. And it all started Thursday night with a Kansas City Chiefs win over the Ravens. We won't get too much into that because we do have a fully packed show ahead of us. So we're going to start things off with the Friday night game, first Friday night game ever in NFL history, and the first game we've seen played in Brazil. That game finished 34-29 to the Philadelphia Eagles over the Green Bay Packers. Gents, are we surprised by that result at all? I'll go with you first.
I am a little bit. I wasn't expecting them to be quite that good. I think in part it definitely has to do with the Green Bay defense. They were horrible. Jair Alexander got taken apart by AJ Brown. The whole game just absolutely made a show of him. A little bit, but it wasn't. It was never really the offense that I had too much of a concern about. Like they do have the talent there to be good. Still some questions about the defense. They did allow, 27 points. There was a few plays in there where it kind of broke down a bit, but overall, that's kind of what you'd expect. I wasn't expecting, some people were, but I wasn't expecting this Green Bay defense to improve too much over the offseason.
Yeah, one guy who kind of took advantage of that porous Green Bay defense was Saquon Barkley. Alex, what did you make of his performance on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, still elite. So that's there's no real massive news story there. I mean, he's just a great runner. He made so much with so little in the previous years with that Giants offense. It is exciting to see him in a real functioning offense with some, a line that can properly block for him. That catch for that first touchdown was, something we haven't seen a whole lot of from him. So that's already, you're seeing new facets to his game. So I think he's going to be, a real key piece for the Eagles this year if they're to have success.
100%. And I guess the main talking point coming out of that game from a Green Bay perspective was a couple of seconds left to go in the game. We saw Jordan Love limp off the field. He was replaced by Malik Willis. It looks like he has an MCL sprain, and that's going to leave him out of that Green Bay team for 3 to 6 weeks. Is this Green Bay season over, do you reckon?
I don't know if I'd call it over just yet. But they're going to struggle. Malik Willis is not good. He's not someone you can rely on for an extended period of time. And I think the Packers got really lucky with this injury. Look back on the replay. He went down really awkwardly, and everyone, even there's if you're ever on Twitter, you'll see some of the injury specialists, and they were all saying that's torn ACL or MCL or something. He's going to be out for the season. I think they got really, really lucky. If they can come back, if he can come back in that 6 to 8 weeks and then stack some wins up, he may squeeze into the playoffs and might have a good season. But I don't know. I don't see them doing very well at all. with Malik Willis under center, especially with how that defense played in the first game.
Yeah, I think another thing that needs to be talked about in this situation is how tough that NFC North division is. We saw a very strong display from the Vikings and from the Lions this weekend. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for them. Alex, are you surprised that they haven't yet made a move for a quarterback, with given that Malik Willis and Jacob Eason are the only quarterbacks on the roster at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get these things done this quickly. I mean, I think we can remember a couple of years ago, Baker Mayfield came into LA and won a game on a Thursday night, having been signed on something ridiculous like the Tuesday. But I don't know. I mean, there's been word that Ryan Tannehill has maybe been contacted. Um, I, I mean, I know Malik Willis isn't great. But how much of an upgrade is Tannehill at this stage in his career? I think anyone going in there will struggle to make much of an impact. I think Jordan Love has a sort of unique connection with this set of receivers. They're all young. They've all been in the organization for a couple of years and work it together. So I think they just have a chemistry that makes that offense work more than any external sources. I think the Packers are being quite smoke and mirrors on how bad the injury is. I mean, they're still talking about, maybe when he might not even, he might not be declared unfit for this Sunday, which I think is obviously, maybe they're just trying to do smoke and mirrors and confuse the other defensive coordinator, but maybe it isn't as bad. And we've seen these days quarterbacks, you get such supreme treatment in the NFL. Maybe they can get some work done on him that enables him to come back on the lighter side of that projected 3 to 6 week timeline. And in that case, I think they'll probably be okay, because I think the wild card in the NFC is probably open. With Detroit are probably going to win the division anyway. So if he misses a few weeks, Malik Willis is probably not going to pick up any wins. But as long as nothing else goes horribly wrong for them and he can come back in short shrift, I think they can still get the show back on the road and maybe push for that wild card spot.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. And I think, I'm a little bit of an optimist when it comes to Green Bay, because they're my pick for the Super Bowl this year. I wasn't expecting the defense to be as porous as they looked versus the Eagles. But the optimist in me says maybe Malik Willis gives some different looks to defenses that, they're not expecting out of Green Bay. He is obviously a very mobile quarterback in the backfield. That's not something really we've seen from any quarterback in Green Bay for the past 40 years. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch. Maybe they can scrape a win or two together while he's in there at quarterback, but it's to be seen. Moving on to Sunday's set of games, I suppose the biggest storyline coming out of that day that's non-football related would be Tyreek Hill and his arrest. He was arrested the morning of the game after speeding past a cop. I don't know if either of you saw the body cam footage, but it was a pretty wild situation. The Tyreek was basically, I wouldn't say he was the image of cooperation, but certainly the cops took it upon themselves to really rough him up. So it was an interesting one there. But nevertheless, he got out and went on to have 7 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown over the Jacksonville Jaguars. So obviously he was a very big part of that offense, although they did struggle a little bit at the start. Al, what did you make of Tua and the Miami offense in that game?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a whole lot of this game, but I thought they looked good. Very much building on last year. They looked solid. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are great as always. I can never remember the running back's name. Devin A-Chain, is it? Yeah. He's really good. He's explosive. He's quick. It's very much what I expected from them. They're going to be very good this year. I think their defense is very good. Really upset that we lost Jordan Brooks to the Dolphins. He's a really good linebacker, so he's going to be good for them this year as well.
Yeah, I guess on the flip side of that, the Jacksonville Jaguars looked in control of that game for a little bit of time. Is there any concern there, Alex, that they kind of didn't put the game to bed at all in the first half, given the start that they did have, a couple of turnovers there that they really could have taken advantage of and didn't?
Yeah, look, I think control of possession is a little bit of a worry, but I do think this kind of came down to like one pivotal moment, and it was quite unlucky. It was great play by the Dolphins defense, but that peanut punch on Etienne when he's about 3 yards out, that goes in. I don't really see Miami coming back. It fumbles, goes out into the end zone, recovered, and it's a touchback. And Miami drive down the field and get the touchdown. I can't remember was that touchdown take the lead or tie the game, but that was a big moment, and I think that just sort of swung momentum totally in Miami's favor. They were already at home, so it was sort of easy for them to dominate then when they were on the up. Difficult for the Jags to get back in that one. So I wouldn't read too much into it. The Jags still looked good. I mean, Etienne's still running well. Tank Bigsby, I think he's a second-year runner now. He looks to have a bit more joy running the ball because he wasn't great last year. And Trevor Lawrence looked good, not spectacular, but looked good. They just need to fix some things, get a bit more turnover luck, and I think they'll be right in the mix come the end of the season.
Yeah, going back to the ETN fumble at the back of the end zone, it feels like we talk about this every year, and that ruling of if you fumble out the back, it becomes a touchback and out to the 25-yard line of the defending team. We talk about it every year, but Al, is this a rule that needs to be changed, or is it an acceptable penalization of a player who has not taken care of the football going towards the goal line?
No, we don't need to change this rule. Don't fumble the ball out of the end zone. Like, it's that simple. Like, you're getting penalized because you fumbled the ball at the back of the end zone. Don't fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone. It's so heavily lean now towards offense. That would just be another thing to help the offense. Like, you don't need more help. Just don't fumble the ball.
Yeah, I mean, as an offensive guy, I have a little bit of sympathy for the guys that happens to. And my only point of contention in terms of, the penalization of the offensive team is if the ball goes out of bounds anywhere else on the field from a fumble, the offense maintains control of that football. It is the only place you are penalized so severely. And it's not even that they get the ball at the 2-yard line or whatever. It's brought all the way back out to the 25-yard line. Just seems a bit harsh in my eyes, but obviously I'm a little bit biased as an offensive guy. Alex, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with Al. I think the end zone is different. It's different rules in the end zone. You go out of the side of the pitch, the ball the clock stops, you get the ball there. If you go out of the sideline in the end zone, it's a safety if you've brought it in yourself, So I think the end zone is special rules for a reason. Yeah, look, take care of the ball at the goal line, guys. Very important. And again, in this case, it's not even like, I understand sometimes when it's someone reaching for the line and they fumble it, and it goes through the back end, so that's really tough to take sometimes. This was a fantastic play by the linebacker from Miami. Punched that ball right out. He got his just rewards and really swung the game for his team. So, I don't have any arguments with it.
That's fair enough. Another point that I wanted to touch on this week was rookie quarterbacks. We saw 3 in action as starters this week. Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams. Fionn mentioned that maybe in the group chat, maybe all of them had a tough start to the season. I don't really agree with him in terms of Jaden Daniels, but we'll get on to him. We will start with Bo Nix, and we'll go to Al for a bit of a kind of review of his game because you've probably watched the most of Bo Nix of the 3 of us this season. So, Al, what did you make of his performance?
I thought it was very much what most people would have expected. if you look at his game from Oregon, or even where did he play before? Texas, or Auburn. He really likes short passes, and that's not a knock on him. Like Drew Brees made a career off that, so it's fine. But that's what he likes. Anything over that, he was really inaccurate. Anything over 10 yards, he was really bad. There was a point where the ball hadn't even left his hand, and the commentator goes, "Oh no," and then Tariq Woolen picks it off. He just threw it for absolutely no reason to triple coverage. And obviously Tariq Woolen picks it off. So, I mean, look, he's a rookie. Don't write him off yet. He's going to make stupid mistakes like that. He's going to struggle. It's fine. I think, the Seahawks defense being one of the only good parts of the game, they played really well and certainly played a factor in his struggles. But yeah, it's kind of what you'd expect of him. And we'll just if he can improve over the season and build on that, then fine. It'll be hard though with that receiver room. It's not great, and for some reason Sean Payton didn't like Tim Patrick and released him, even though he was probably their best receiver. So yeah, I mean, again, what you'd expect from him. I wouldn't say there's anything groundbreaking there. I don't think anyone except for Broncos fans expected them to do particularly well on Sunday.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that really stood out was like nickel and diming the ball down the field is absolutely okay, but at some point you need to take shots. And my issue is not with the accuracy from Bo Nix when he was taking those shots. It was with the decision making. He seemed to make a couple of poor decisions. Both picks were really on his back. Hopefully that's something that can be kind of coached out of his game. But yeah, it wasn't the nicest start of the season that we've seen. Mind you, he did show some, as Sean Payton calls it, sneaky mobility. He did look pretty good when he got out of the pocket. Made smart decisions there, got down, didn't take too many hits. So at least he has that going for him. So hopefully, yeah, he can shrug this game off, move into next week, and do something a little bit better. On the Seahawks side of the football, a real struggle in the first half, I would say, Alex. I don't know if you caught much of this game, but seemed to struggle in the first half. Kind of got on the back of Kenneth Walker, got things rolling in the second half. Gino was able to do his thing, play action, etc. off the back of that. How do you see the Seahawks season unfolding off the back of this?
Yeah, as you said, it's slow start. I mean, that was nearly the theme of the Sunday, really. A lot of offenses were slow to start. Some crazy decisions like running the ball at a shotgun in your own end zone contributed to one of the safeties, one of the two safeties, which was interesting. Yeah, I mean, they ran on the back. Kenneth Walker is a great running back. He can certainly take them places and win them games against poorer opposition like Denver, where he can just grind away, keep the clock ticking over. And then all that Geno Smith has to do is manage the game. And he can do that. He's well capable of doing that. And I think that's really what he did on Sunday. They controlled the game. Kind of nearly let it slip toward the end there. Bo Nix got his rushing touchdown, and but for a defensive holding penalty, I think they would have had fourth down in their own half and had to give the ball back to the Broncos with a little time left, which would have set up something exciting. But still, a defensive holding penalty, easy, defensive holding penalty, so easy for Seattle to kneel it out. I think they'll be good this season, but not great. They're probably, again, the NFC, that wild card race is quite open. So they could definitely make a push for that. I think they just, they got to get, I mean, Tyler Lockett looked locked in. Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't get a whole lot of the ball. But yeah, you want to see the Seahawks push the ball downfield a bit more. But I think they'll be okay this year.
Yeah, something definitely, Al, that Gino is capable of doing, pushing the ball downfield. But I think he needs to make more use of his tight ends. We saw that kind of 2 years ago and in the back end of last season, making use of those tight ends off play action passes and really moving that ball downfield. It's not something really that we saw in the game there on Sunday. Do you reckon that's down to the new offensive coordinator or just an off day in terms of that side of the game?
I think that was down to a few things. We certainly did see more tight end usage, but it wasn't in the past, but passing to them. After the first half, I mean, I'm not sure in the first half, but in the game as a whole, Gino was pressured on over 40% of his dropbacks, which is, you can't function as an offense like that. So in the second half, fair play to some of the guys. They did tighten up their game, but they started using a lot more 21 and 12 personnel to help with the pass pro, and that helped a lot, and that's what really got them moving. You saw those holes open for Kenneth Walker, and it made it a whole lot easier. As well, if you give any weight to PFF, Charles Cross was their highest graded offensive lineman last week, so that's one good thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it you can work out, but like, will they? Are they good enough to do that? Are they good enough to get over that? I don't know that they are, because their guards, both of them, looked horrible. Like, there was times, like, before Gino even had the ball in his hands after the snap, the defensive tackles just got straight through the lines. So hard to say. I think they can do well, as Alex said, but they really have to get that out on offense. They're not going to be able to function like that. That'll lose them a lot of games if they can't figure that out.
Absolutely. And moving forward to a game that we probably wouldn't talk about on any given week regularly, but it was featuring the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. Chicago Bears versus Tennessee Titans. That game finished 24-17 to the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams didn't have his best day passing, 14 of 29 for 93 yards. No interceptions, but also no touchdowns. Will Levis on the other side probably had an even poorer display passing the football. He had 19 of 32 for 127 yards, 1 touchdown, but 2 back-breaking interceptions. Alex, how do you think Caleb Williams did in this game? Is this a kind of tough start to his career, or are we going to see more games like this moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to judge off the one. I mean, he didn't look good, but neither did Will Levis. So was it just a situational thing where the offense was just not flowing for one reason or another? I think combined, there was less than 400 combined yards between the two teams on offense. Not just passing yards, that's yards in general. It was not a good game. It was an AFI game, to be honest. Like, you'd see these kind of stat lines between, two teams in the Division 1 or something like that. Yeah, Caleb, he didn't look great. But at the same time, like, I mean, we've seen him in college. We've even seen him in the preseason make some fantastic throws and on the move. So you got to assume that it's just sort of the first game nerves and the defense had something cooked up to negate him totally, but it's not super encouraging. I mean, they've also now had injuries to both Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze. Odunze, I think, is slightly serious. I think Allen might just be nicked up, but Odunze's got he's having an MRI on a lower leg injury. That's not going to help him. But he's still got DJ Moore there. Running game should be, you would think would be good, but they just need to get he needs to get better protected and just figure out what he can do to push that ball downfield, because there was no deep shots really, and the Bears defense really bailed them out of this one.
Yeah, 100% agree. It looked a very cagey game overall in terms of the way it was being called by both offensive coordinators. We did see some flashes from Caleb Williams in terms of when he got out of the pocket. I think he hit DJ Moore for 11 yards with an absolute dart on the move. So, yeah, that was pretty nice. On the flip side of things, though, Al, your Tennessee Titans don't look all that hot. Is this a concern for you and your hot take?
Yeah. No, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm really concerned after that. They were up by 17, and then in the second half, without the Bears scoring any offensive points, they allowed 26 unanswered points. That's hugely concerning. I know, one of them was off that just idiotic pass, or I think it was just Will Levis trying to get rid of the ball, and he just throws it directly to a defender, and they go for a pick six. But yeah, that's really concerning. The defense broke down. The offense just didn't function, and that's not just on Will Levis. I mean, the whole thing broke down in the second half. And credit where credit's due. That Bears defense looks really, really good. They could end up being a top 5 defense in the league this year. So that certainly played a part in that dominant second half, despite no offensive points. But yeah, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm sweating a little bit now.
Yeah, I think the main thing that stood out to me from a Tennessee point of view was that offense just looked very disjointed. It doesn't look like it has a solid identity. Like even with the running backs being split between Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, Will Levis looking quite incompetent, and that wide receiver core just didn't look all that hot. It just seems like a rudderless ship. So I'd agree, Al. I would be worried if I was a Tennessee Titans fan. There's not a whole lot more we can say about that game, given it was such a stinker. So we will move on to the last of the rookie quarterbacks who are playing this week. That's Jaden Daniels. Unfortunately, came up with a loss 37-20 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but his stats were pretty good. So he had 17 of 24, 184 yards, no touchdowns, passing or interceptions, but he had 2 on the ground and 88 yards. Now, Fionn did mention that maybe he didn't have the best of days, but I mean, 260 odd yards combined in your first game, a couple of touchdowns. I'd be having that. It's unfortunate he's not here to talk about it, but maybe Alex, you could share your thoughts on Jaden Daniels' debut.
Yeah, I said he looked good on the ground when he was upright. He looked weird and strange when he was trying to do his weird version of a kneel where he just tucks his shoulder and hits the ground head first. That's going to take some getting used to, and like really leaves him open for taking some big hits. So interesting to see if he just sticks that out, or if someone like just tells him to cop on and start sliding. I don't know what the issue is, but it was interesting to watch. Through the air, he was fine. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He was certainly better than the other 2 rookie wide receivers on display on Sunday. He wasn't asked to do a whole pile, and how could he be? He doesn't have a wide receiving core. I mean, he's got Terry McLaurin, who's great, but was totally played out of the game by the Bucs defense, and then he's thrown to like De'Ami Brown and a host of other names that they're certainly not on any fantasy football rosters this year. So I think he did. I think he did fine, and I think it's positive. The running game, I think, will really rule the day for Washington down the stretch. Eckler and Robinson both ran quite well, and I think they were the 2 leading receivers as well, or certainly Eckler was up there. So that bodes well for them in one way, but also bodes terribly for them in another way. If teams start to stack boxes against them and just counter that run play, I am not supremely confident that they're going to be able to do anything in the passing game that will allow them to stack up wins. But I think this season probably isn't really about wins and losses for Washington. It's about developing Jaden as a quarterback. And I think for, through one outing, he's been good. He's definitely the best rookie quarterback we've seen so far. So I don't think there's too much to be pessimistic about. As much as Fionn will try to put the pessimistic spin on it, I think Commanders fans have got to be reasonably happy with his output on Sunday.
Yeah, Fiona's one of the most pessimistic men in the world. Yeah, like you said, what stood out to me from his performance was kind of his decision making, certainly more so than the other two rookie quarterbacks that we saw in the game. So he did take that check down often, and you are correct. Austin Eckler had 4 grabs for 52 yards in the game. Robinson had 3 for 49. So his top 2 receivers there, both being running backs. On the flip side of that, Al, that Buccaneers team looks really hot, and Baker Mayfield is playing out of his skin. Do you think that they have the firepower there to win that division? And maybe do you see them making a run deep into the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, they can definitely win that division easy. If they can play like that. Like, they didn't play against, top team or anything like that, but that was a really good show. I mean, they Baker threw 4 touchdowns, and not like easy touchdowns. They were all like nice throws. Their receiver, McMillan, he made a nice catch. Mike Evans he's Mike Evans. He made 2 great grabs in the end zone. And then on their defense, like, I don't think they're any, world beaters, but they have some guys there to really put it to some teams. So I think, yeah, they can make, if they can do that every week or most weeks. Baker, I mean, where the hell did he come from? He's just stinking up the place for 4 or 5 years. And then, like, he just starts doing this. I was really impressed with the Bucs on Sunday.
Yeah, I was super concerned when Baker Mayfield got his contract in the offseason, because it seems to be a trend in recent years where quarterbacks get paid and then the slide just starts to happen. They go downhill quickly. Baker Mayfield looks to have taken what he's done last season and built upon it. He looks like a really confident guy, the same way he did in those first few seasons with the Browns. It's just so ironic to me that if you were picking a roster moving forward, you had free choice of quarterbacks in terms of Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson. You're picking Baker Mayfield every single time at this day and age, and that's just incredible to me.
Yeah,
incredible.
I have a long-standing theory on Baker Mayfield, and it's that the more he knows the playbook, the worse he is. So they got a new OC this year. This is their first game under his new OC, new offense. He's fantastic. As the season goes on, I reckon he'll regress again. As I mentioned earlier, he came in on 2 days' notice for the Rams and won that game because he didn't read the playbook. He didn't overthink it. The less Baker knows, the better he is. So just have him playing Madden on a totally different playbook, and then Sunday drop it in his lap and be like, right, go and make some plays, Baker.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. So I am not Daramar, so I have not been able to drag this show out very long. So we're going to move into some of the kind of more extra stuff that we want to talk about. I suppose we didn't get a chance to talk about Monday Night Football, and obviously, Alex, your 49ers were involved there. Do you want to give us a rundown of what you thought of the game last night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big news before kickoff was a surprise inactive for Christian McCaffrey, although it does seem that it was a surprise inactive just to everyone else, not to the 49ers. They knew since Friday that he wasn't going to go, and he's potentially not even going to go next week. But they sort of didn't miss a beat. Jordan Mason put up, I can't remember the exact figure, but well over 100 rushing yards. He looked good. The offensive line moved swiftly. I think Trent Williams. They showed what, I think specifically Fionn was doubting his ability. He allowed 0 quarterback pressures from his side in the game against what is a good Jets defense. Well, what was a good Jets defense. Didn't look great last night, but they were not in, mid-season form. You could still tell that Purdy still missed some throws. Ayuk had a big drop, but I think ultimately they won't be too concerned. They were able to move the football, got stopped in the red zone, but Moody was kicking. He's in great kicking form, as were all the kickers. That was a big theme of the weekend. Kickers may be the best or the most important position in sports at the moment. They are money to start.
Unless you're Cade York for the Commanders.
Yes, who they traded for.
Who they traded for.
We did ridicule it at the time in the group chat. An insane decision when there's so many kickers out there who can kick a ball. But yeah, like they looked good. Even the Jets didn't. It was not like the Jets were the Jets. They weren't diabolical. But I think the 49ers just played them really well. Rodgers looked good. The play calling I felt was very odd from the Jets and a bit rigid. They never sort of got in a full flow and rhythm that Aaron Rodgers just works. If you could see on those sort of improvised plays that the free play that they got for the defensive offsides where he's just able to hit it, right on the target. It didn't feel like they got into a rhythm with that and never had too many periods where they played in that sort of full flow state, as Rodgers probably calls it. He drops some ayahuasca and just let feel the football more. It felt a lot more rigid, and I don't think that really plays to his style. And yeah, as I said, the defense kind of no-showed. They didn't really have anything. They couldn't get a stop for their offense to allow them to have the ball long enough to get into a flow. So I think it was a good sign for the 49ers, and yeah, they'll be happy, but they'll know they have plenty to work on. But it's not about being at the best you can be right now. It's about being the best you can be in 4 months' time.
Al, I have a question to ask because I have a bone to pick with the entire NFL media, whatever sphere you want to call it. They have pretty much anointed Breece Hall one of the top 3 running backs in the league based off one half season where he busted his knee. Last night, 16 carries, 54 yards, average of 3.4 yards carry and a touchdown. Did he do enough for you to be getting all of this hype?
No, and he hasn't. I mean, look, based on his rookie season when he was 100% healthy, there's no question. Like he was among the top running backs, but since his injury, he hasn't proved that. He hasn't gotten back to that form, and it's a mixture of things. I mean, I think the Jets' offensive line is cursed at this point. No matter how much talent they had, they're always shit. And I find it very funny that Becton was actually good for the Eagles. I think it's just overblown completely. I think they're just hanging on to that one season where he was really good, and it's like, no, he'll get there. He'll definitely get there. But if his knee's not right, then he'll never get there.
I mean, I don't know if you're involved in any fantasy leagues this season, but in one of mine, he went like 5th overall, which I thought was just a mind-blowing kind of future play in the hopes that he was going to turn out well, but he just hasn't shown it for me. We're going to move on to a short section at the end. So we're going to go boom or bust, runaway train or derailed train. I want you both to pick a team that you are going to overhype or declare their season over at this point, because week 1 is all about overreactions. So Al, I will start with yourself. Who are you overblowing or declaring a derailed train?
I think it's easier to declare a derailed train, isn't it? after the weekend, it's got to be the Giants. I mean, I had a few options. I could have went with the Panthers, That would have been easy. But I mean, the Giants, Jesus Christ, every part of their team just sucked. They're still leaning on Daniel Jones. Why did they extend Daniel Jones? I mean, he's barely a replacement level quarterback, and they gave him, how much was it? 200 million or something? Just a ludicrous contract. The only saving grace that they have is that Dexter Lawrence is an alien. He was far and away the best player on the field, bar none, in that game. Actually, he the top pass rush win rates for defensive tackles. Number 2 and number 3 are 30% and 27%. And then Dexter Lawrence has 72% win rate. He is ridiculous. And just watch that game and just watch Dexter Lawrence for the entire thing. He is not human. He absolutely made a show of that offensive line. But the rest was just a disaster. Top to bottom, they need to blow that team up. And Dable needs to go. He's not it. He's just not it.
That's the insane thing for me, though, is they have built quite a good defense on that roster, right? You have Thibodeau and Brian Burns bookending Dexter Lawrence in the middle of that defense. That should be domination across the board.
Should be,
with
but
the
they did
offensive
nothing.
side of the ball. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Was invisible on Sunday. He did absolutely nothing. And then he got pissy about it in an interview. It's like, oh, how do you expect, like, you're talking about being this, dominating defense, and you go out and you barely get any pressures or whatever the question was. And he gives this incredibly pissy answer, basically telling the reporter to fuck off. And then just like, anyone else have a real question to ask? It's like, dude, that's a legitimate question after you stank the place up on Sunday. Like, you're talking this big talk and then you go out and do nothing.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. That obviously that Vikings O-line is quite good, particularly their tackles. So I can see why defensive ends might not get a decent run at it in that game. But going back to it, yeah, I think the problem is the offensive side of the football. They have not built a decent roster there. And we're running into year 6 of Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Year 6. They gave him that franchise tag and then decided off the back of that they would extend him. The craziest decision in all of sports.
And since they've extended him, he's thrown 3 pick-sixes and 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable.
Alex, I would pass it to you to say, do you agree with this statement that the Giants season is over? But I'm pretty sure I know your answer.
Yeah, it's done. Let's see who else they got there. Tommy Cutlets, is that it? The backup. It literally, like, I was watching Red Zone at the weekend. It flashed, cut to the Miami-New York game Minnesota-New York game at one point, and I literally turned to my wife and said, Daniel Jones pick 6, guaranteed. And it happened instantly, because I was like, right, the Giants have got the ball on their own 25-yard line here, and Red Zone are cutting to it. I mean, it certainly isn't a fucking 75-yard bomb by Daniel Jones, so it's going back the other way.
Just need to cover their one receiver, Malik Neighbors, and they're done. Yeah, so yeah, it's a grim one. That game in Munich is going to be a fucking stinker. That is poverty football right there. But we won't get into that just yet. Alex, give me a boom or a bust based on week 1.
Yeah, so my bust was also going to be the Giants. So I'll go my boom, and it is the Houston Texans. I think they look fantastic. They played really well on Sunday. The entire offense already clicking. Joe Mixon had 150 something yards rushing on the ground, like a huge day. He looks, healthy, and looks to be running really well behind an offensive line that has been constructed over a number of years and really appears to be like at playing at the top of their game and really well gelled at this point. Stephon Diggs got in on the action, and he got two touchdowns there. He looked good. He's on a 1-year contract, so he's going to be on his best behavior. So there's no, I think there's less of a risk of him just throwing the toys out of the pram at some point, because he still needs to get paid next year. So I think that's a really good situation for them. And the defense that they've built as well, really impressive. They did still concede 27 points to the Colts, but they had some good plays. They think they had a rookie corner pick off Richardson at one point, and Richardson was doing ridiculous things, and they were still able to manage it and keep them behind the whole game. And every time that the Colts had would take a shot, get in the lead or whatever, Houston had an answer on offense. And it just feels like one of those teams, like Kansas City in years gone by, that no matter what you do, if they get the ball back, you'll always back them to go on a drive and score. They've just got firepower all over the place, and I'm really high on them this year. I think it's tough being in the AFC, but I think they've had playoff experience now. Last year, they've had a win and a loss last year in the playoffs, so they've got a bit more experience now. I believe, Stroud is so good. I believe that they have a real chance to shake up the AFC and win that whole conference, go to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I don't want to keep shitting on your picks, but you mentioned that the Colts were going to be shit this year. How shit did Anthony Richardson look in that game?
Anthony Richardson looks great. It's the rest of the team I have some questions about. But I'll give you that one a little bit. My picks haven't been great. Week 1 will humble you like nothing else. They look better than I thought they were gonna. Anthony Richardson looking just as advertised, if not better. Not perfect, but like as good as he could have been. But I do have some questions about that team, especially on defense. They looked spotty. Now, they showed through the game that they can do things. They can shut you down, and they can do all these things on offense. But it was inconsistent at best. So I'll mostly take the L on that, but little bit still. I'm not totally sold on them yet.
Yeah, it was. Do you know what it was? There was very few medium yardage plays. It was all short gain, and then Anthony Richardson does something insane, and it's a touchdown or a
70-yard touchdown.
Yeah. So
that one where he slipped.
I'll agree with you there. Yeah, yeah. I mean that touchdown where he slipped like that was insane. But yeah, they've got some work to do. I mean, it's not really a surprise looking at Stroud and Richardson that you could say Richardson still has more developing to do, where Stroud already looks like the final package. I mean, Richardson didn't have a whole first season really. I mean, he missed so much of that season, so it's not surprising to see him playing a little bit of catch up to just where Stroud's at. But I still think they've got a really good player in there, and as long as he can stay healthy and gets a full season in, he'll develop. And I think he's going to be a fantastic player hopefully for years to come.
Yeah, I think he's probably the most physically gifted quarterback I've ever seen play the game of football. Like he's Cam Newton, but who can run a 4.4 40. He's a monster. So if he can stay healthy, I think they've found themselves an absolute diamond there. I am going to go with a bust. I'm a little bit like my brother. I find it easier to find the bad games than the good games, and my bust is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Do I think they can make the playoffs? Yes, but their goals were very, very lofty this season. They're kind of in that Super Bowl window, and they did not look like a Super Bowl team versus that Patriots side. Joe Burrow, a bizarre stat line, 21 of 29 for 169 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. People are giving Joe Burrow a lot of stick for this game, but for me, the play calling was very, very conservative. to the point that we just didn't see anything go deep from Joe Burrow. And when he did try to go deep, the offensive line did not give him the time that he needed. But yeah, for me, this bodes poorly for the Bengals season. They are obviously in that stacked division at the moment, so that's not going to go well for them. Obviously, there's wildcard spots available to them, given that we have 7 teams moving forward from each conference. But yeah, for me, the Bengals were not there in week 1. Now, the only caveat that I have to offer on this one is that Joe Burrow is 1-8 in the first 2 weeks of the season over his entire NFL career, which is just a mind-boggling stat for a quarterback of his talent. But yeah,
That's 1-9 as
my
well.
pick. Huh?
Playing the Chiefs. He's about to be 1-9.
Yeah, he's
playing the
about to
Chiefs
be
this week,
1-9.
so.
Yeah, mind you, the Chiefs, they're a team that he loves to beat. So I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled certainly a performance out of his ass, maybe not a result. Alex, do you have anything to offer on maybe the flip side of it? Did the Patriots look better than you expected under Gerard Mayo?
They looked better than expected. I think the Patriots are just going to be annoying this year. They don't have anything really on offense, so their games are not going to be entertaining. But they have a stout defense. The kind of defense you expect the Patriots team to have, especially under Bill Belichick. But Mayo comes straight out of that school, so that defense is going to be tough. It's going to make the games that a little bit dirty, not in a foul play sort of a way, but just in the sort of the way everything is going on. It's just going to be a little bit, grimy, gritty football. They're going to make you work for every single yard. And I think they're going to be able to stifle offenses the way they play. But I don't think they offer much on offense, so I can't see it being a successful season. With the Bengals, as I said, they're traditionally slow starters. I mean, they don't have Jamar Chase did not practice all off season, so he's going to need some time to get up to speed really on the season. T. Higgins was out, so I'm not at the panicking stage yet on the Bengals. I think they'll come good in a couple of months' time, but they're not there at the minute. I think as well, like the way that franchise treats their players is not fantastic. It feels like there's a sort of an atmosphere there that they don't necessarily want. There's no incentive to try as hard as you possibly can, especially early when the stuff doesn't matter as much. It's more about getting in tune now and then figuring out later in the season. It's unlike, say, the 49ers or even a team like Dallas, where their players are looked after. They want to go out and win every game. They've got huge fan base. Everyone's there. There's more of a positive atmosphere around it. I feel like that's why teams like that start better quicker. Whereas the Bengals have always started slow, and it just seems to be that the players don't really want to be there for the first month or two of the season, and then they sort of be like, right, well, we better start stringing some wins together here if we want to get playoff football. Maybe that's a crazy theory by me, but that's just something I kind of struck me looking at them.
Yeah, myself and Fionn kind of bigged up Jacoby Brissett last week. Moving into this game, said he was a steady head, decent kind of accuracy player. Were you disappointed with the way he played at the weekend? 15 of 24 for 121 yards. I know it was a tough slog of a game, but he did look like he missed some wide open guys and just didn't look up to speed at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been like that, though. I mean, he's fine. He's never going to be, the guy to really elevate an offense, but he can manage it just fine. But their offensive line just wasn't good enough. They were another team that had a huge pressure percentage on their pass pro. So he's fine. He's never gonna, elevate the offense if it's gonna struggle like that. So they played a good game. They're better than I thought they'd be, especially on defense. Like I knew they were going to be good, but they were better than I thought they'd be. And offense did enough. They made very few mistakes. They just did enough to win the game, and that's what you'd expect with Brissett, just to do enough, as long as the defense isn't letting 30 points or anything like that. So, yeah, there was no real surprises there, other than the end result of the game. I wasn't expecting them to beat them, but as you said, I mean, the Bengals kind of do this every year, so they start off slow, and week 1, you never know. So
it's great to be hyperbolic, though. We love a good fire sale at the start of the season. So yeah, look, does anybody have anything else to add about week 1 of the NFL season?
Just that it pains me to say that I think the 49ers did it again. They got another really good offensive lineman in Dominic Pooney. The bastards. He played really well against the Jets. I was really impressed.
Magnanimous as ever, Al.
Yeah, to be fair, he gives people their flowers, whether he likes to or not. So yeah, he's an honest guy.
I am seething right now.
Yeah, but look, as you said, that interior offensive line was probably the biggest worry of the 49ers. Between Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford, not really sure who's going to get there. So it is reassuring to see Pooney perform well. Long may it continue.
All right, so I think we will wrap it up there. 2.5 odd minutes ahead of schedule. Look at that. Always finishing first. That's me. So yeah, we'll leave it there. We've been the Under Center podcast. You can find us on all of the socials at Under Center Pod. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're hoping to get a few more, game tweets out there on X, or game X's. I don't even know what you call it these days. Find us on YouTube, Under Center Podcast. Watch back. Tell us what you think, and make sure, just to interact, comment, tell us how your team did. Are we totally in the wrong in terms of all of our takes this week? And we will see you again for week 2. So, lads, thanks very much for being on.
Appreciate it.
And stay safe, and we will see you soon.
All right.